What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again. Millsy, it's back. We're back. It was a Premier League game and we won. How are you feeling?
Wow. Those 6 minutes of goals, the goal after it that didn't stand, the passion, the energy from... And I've got to be honest here, the players give us that because we were 1-0 down. It could have very easily went the other way. They stepped up. There was a moment in the first half as well. We had 5 or 6 minutes where we were attacking the Gladys Street and they stepped up again. So full credit. The night, Mike, I was there. It was fantastic. It was one of those nights which, when I was watching behind closed doors football, I was longing for those games last season where I thought that we could have made a difference. I think despite the despite the players getting us into it, we certainly did. We pushed the players on. All their social media today were praising Goodison, saying it was on fire. It certainly was. I know you weren't there, unfortunately. What was it like for you watching it?
To be honest, it was mad. It was, straight up. It was rubbish not being there. It was horrible not being there. But it just seemed, the first half seemed really lackluster. It seemed a little bit lethargic. It was almost like we took the international break hangover, if you get what I mean. And we looked poor for probably half an hour of the first half. I thought there was bits of the first half where we weren't too bad. I don't think it was as horrendous as some people said it was, but it weren't great. You know, it was definitely more a Carlo performance than it was a Rafa performance. And
definitely, yeah.
The first 10 minutes of the second half, I thought we were slightly better, but I didn't think we were great. I think they scored against the run of play. I think Everton were probably the more dominant team at the time, but only just. Silly foul to give away and poor defending. You know, the ball's coming. We've got 3 centre-halves and it's essentially 2 Burnley players and either of them can score in the middle of the box. It was that bad. But then that 10 minutes, that 6 or 7 minutes, I mean, fucking hell. I mean, the watch-along we did, my head was off. My head was off. It was gone. It was on a different planet, I'm screaming thunder cunt at every opportunity. It was just absolutely brilliant. So if you get a chance to watch, zoom back to the minutes and you'll see my reaction. It was
I definitely will do. All I can say about being in a stadium where I sit is the park end. Lucky enough to be behind all of those goals, and it was just there was wave after wave where people around me were saying we can't sit down because Everton were attacking. Andre Gomez had a great chance. Damari Gray was put through almost again. Richarlison, I know we're going to come onto him. He was quite busy in his movements. It looked like things could keep happening for a good 10 or 15 minutes there. The singing, the songs, the away day, Damari Gray, ole, 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 was ringing around Goodison. It was a fantastic atmosphere. And I know, Mike, we've spoke off air today that I know where we're going with this. You listened to the Across the Park instant match reaction last night of anybody who didn't listen. Well, thank you very much. For anyone who didn't listen to it, we recorded it outside of the park end.
Yeah.
And it was, 10 or 15 minutes removed from full time. And out walks Richarlison in his full tracksuit with kids approaching him. He wasn't interested in doing anything for the kids approaching him. There came 2 stewards who led him out to his car. And he had the face of a guy who'd just been knocked back from the best club on a stag do. He just absolutely was not happy at all. And we're talking 10 or 15 minutes, no words of a lie, removed from a game. He couldn't have been down there congratulating or joining in the celebrations. He must have got showered, changed, straight out. And I know, Mike, you're going to come on to it. And for me, before I get you into it, I was really, really taken back by that. I seen him come off the pitch, and for me, he should have given Rondon a smack on the arse and said, right, winning 3-1, good luck, big man. He didn't do that. And I can tell all the viewers here that I witnessed with my own eyes Richarlison 10 minutes after the game, walking into his car with a face like thunder. Mike, what do you make of his behaviour last night?
I want to caveat this because I don't just want people to think I'm assassinating Richarlison. Okay. Richarlison, on his day, is my favourite Everton player. Okay? That's the caveat. He is the player that gets me off my... Although Damari Gray, you could argue, and Town said that for last night. But he's the player that when the ball goes to Richarlison, I want the kid to do well. I want him to.
Yeah.
You know, I love him. He's making it fucking difficult at the minute, and I want to emphasise the fucking there because it's actually killing me because he did it at Brighton. He had a moment at Brighton of sheer stupidity, in my opinion. He was desperate for that penalty. He was desperate to stay on the pitch last night. And I know the intentions are good. He wants goals. I love that. That's not a negative. A footballer wanting goals, a striker wanting goals, confidence boosting goals is not a negative. But the way he's going about it, the way he's reacting, is childish. It's nothing but childish. And he's making it really difficult for me to continue loving him with the way that he's acting. There's no doubt he works hard for the team. There's no doubt he tracks back. There's no doubt he puts a foot in. You know, there's no doubt last night that Tarkowski, in my opinion, should have been on the pitch after 55 minutes because he got absolutely nailed.
Yeah, he did.
But I don't know whether that made him go, I'm going to score past you. I'm going to really go and have you. And that was, I don't know what was in his head for him to complain coming off. His team's 3-1 up at the time he comes off. He's not been the best Richarlison. He wasn't the best player on the pitch last night. But I have this real concern that Richarlison's starting to hate the fact he isn't Everton's number one player anymore. He isn't the talisman anymore. And I really think he's going to struggle with that. And under Rafa Benitez, that isn't how Everton play. It isn't how Newcastle play. It isn't as Valencia played. And this is why, under Rafa Benitez teams, these players with these egos tend to struggle. We've seen it with James Rodriguez in Real Madrid. We've saw it with several players under Rafa Benitez at different clubs. So my concern is Rafa Benitez and Richarlison. Could they end up being like James Rodriguez and Richarlison? And I really don't want that. But I can't sit here and be happy at the way he's acting because I think it's stroppy, I think it's childish, and I think somebody in his management team or the manager or Duncan needs to pull him to one side and say, pull your socks up, kid. There's 41,000 Everton fans or 40,000 Everton fans in this stadium that would swap place with you tomorrow. And do you think if they had a poor game, they'd strop? That's my take on it. If I went into it too much, I'd explode. But when I heard what he did last night, walking from the park end to his car, face like thunder, kids who idolise him, just being swatted away. And you're not just the only person I've heard that from as well, by the way. It's not like...
I don't mind. I mean, I had some messages today and the fair messages saying, well, why have you put that in the public domain? The reason we've done that is because it happened in front of us as we were live recording a podcast. If we'd have seen it, if I'd have walked past and seen it, I'd have maybe told some people privately and not put it out there. But the fact that I've put it out on our own podcast, I've got to come on here and discuss it with you. So for anybody who's going to say in the comments that I shouldn't have put it out there, I 100% understand that. But the fact is, it is out there now. It is something that happens, and it's something that you could see. Go on, sorry. 12
messages, Millsy.
Right.
So that puts in perspective 12 messages from people who aren't you, who weren't recording at the time, mate. So I think all you're doing is reporting on what happened at the game. I personally don't think anyone should be giving you stick for that. All you've done is said how a player reacted after a game. It's a shocker.
No, it's about. I mean, you put yourself out there on shows and you put content out there, and you're there to be shot at. I'm a massive Evertonian, but I'm also a massive Richarlison fan. I think there's areas of his game and big areas of the game as a psychology. If you get that right, what a player! Because you can see what a player he can be. The problem is he doesn't want to be part of an Everton win unless he's scoring goals in it. And that, to me, is now becoming very, very evident. And it's very, very dangerous. And the fact that if you bring him into the team at 20, 21, 22, okay, he's now maturing. He's been around the Premier League for now 4 years. He's a big international player. At some point, it has to become, I will sit in this dressing room without scoring and celebrate my team winning. And he didn't do that last night. He didn't want to come off the pitch. He didn't want another striker to come on and score a goal. And there's aspects of that where there are positives to it, but he is beaming negativity more than he's beaming positivity at the minute. And I don't know how long, the manager can put up with that, because you've referenced there the James Rodriguez thing, which is a fantastic reference. And I don't know how long the fans will put up with it. If he scores goals at Anfield, which results in victories, if he scores big goals at Goodison, and he's great with the fans and he's great with social media, yes, you can turn the blind eye to it. When that stops and all we are seeing is the negativity, I don't know how long the relationship can continue from our side, never mind his. And I understand he's a Brazilian international who finished 10th in the league, 11th in the league, 8th in the league. He's been promised certain things by the club. And I understand he may be looking and saying, for my career now, I need to look away. But whilst you're here, you've got to play for the shirt. You've got to. That's all we demand. If we'd have lost 1-0 last night and he'd have sweated and came off the pitch with nothing left and stayed behind as part of the team, that's very, very different than Everton winning and him not wanting to be part of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's... Look, I saw the blind. I'll give a blind eye to the Brighton situation. You know, it was a positive win. He wanted that penalty. He didn't get it. He lost his head. Whatever. I let him off. I'll let him off for this one.
Okay.
But we can't be seeing too much of this from any player. This has been a really positive start this season for Everton, and there shouldn't be any negatives. You know, Rafa Benitez has managed to turn a lot of fans that were against him right from the start to being for him. The football we're playing. I mean, some people said the football we'd be playing would be boring, but I tell you what, I'm more excited watching a game of football under Rafa than I ever was under Carlo Ancelotti. Maybe not at the start, but you know, under Carlo Ancelotti. And we've spent well. I mean, I want to talk about the players who have done really well. I'm going to call this podcast, and you'll all see it now. They're good, they're really good, and they're slightly stroppy. But let's move on to the man of the match. And actually, the person I give man of the match to is actually the exact same person you give man of the match to, but he wasn't the official man of the match. Abdullah Doucoure last night. He was absolutely brilliant. And I was making a joke referring to him as being better than Pogba. Now, look, there's a lot of Man United fans that will get triggered by that. But he was brilliant last night, Doucoure. Absolutely exceptional.
The best thing for me, Mike, was I came out that ground initially not knowing who the man of the match would be for all the right reasons, because there were a number of players who were fantastic last night. If someone said to me it was Andros Townsend, I agree. If someone said to me it was Alan, I agree. I would also take shouts for Damari Gray. I thought Damari Gray was a nightmare for them last night, an absolute nightmare. But for me, I've referenced there in the first half when Everton tried to turn it around a little bit. At the forefront of that was Abdullah Doucoure. In the second half, at the forefront of us on the front foot, winning the ball back aggressively, trying to score goals, was Abdullah Doucoure. For me, he was fantastic. And you can't not praise the position he's playing in with the manager has put him. He's no longer in this sort of no man's land where he's in on a low block and he's breaking at certain times. He just looks to me like someone who's been given license to say, if you want to get forwards and cause problems, get forwards and cause fucking problems, because you're big enough and good enough to do it. And maybe that's all he needs, because that's exactly what he's doing. Even in games he's not scoring goals in, he's a threat. He should have scored last night. I haven't watched the game back, so I don't know, whether he was or wasn't, but he deserved it. If that goal would have stood, he absolutely deserved it. I think we've stolen for £25 million. I think we've absolutely stolen.
I couldn't agree more. I thought Doucoure was exceptional. And actually, we don't actually need to speak that much about Doucoure, because actually he's been exceptional in almost every single game this season. He's been brilliant. I think I've given man of the match this season 3 out of 4 games, and that speaks how highly he is. He's been unleashed. And do you know what it allows? And I was going to mention this to you. I think it allows Everton to not worry about playing a number 10, which obviously to some fans and fans. But playing this 4-4-2 system where Alan drops and makes it a 5 defensively and Doucoure pulls forward. I said to John, I rang John earlier, and I said, John, think about it, right? Doucoure's pass to Demarai Gray for the 3rd goal. If you've got a number 10 on the pitch, that ball does not get to Demarai Gray. It goes to the number 10, who's in front of the central midfielder. You play it into him. It doesn't go to Demarai Gray. On the Andros Townsend goal, he picks up the ball from Doucoure 40 yards out, carries it 15 yards. If Everton had a number 10 on, he probably makes that pass. But it doesn't. He shoots from 30 yards.
And you know what? No, I think while we're talking about Doucoure, I think, and it's someone that I think I told you 2 or 3 weeks ago that I wanted to bring money in for, but it's only right that I praise him. Andre Gomez came on last night and done brilliantly.
Yeah.
And
it's good.
When we were 1-1, excuse me, we were 1-0 down, and the screen showed it was Gomez getting changed. And no one really got up for it. Everyone was a little bit like, okay, well, maybe Rondon, maybe Iwobi, maybe Anthony Gordon. We didn't expect it to be Gomez. I'll tell you what, that's why I'm sitting in the stands and not managing Everton Football Club, because those little tweaks, and even at 2 or 3-1 up, where Burnley were trying to get back into the game, a goal disallowed and a couple of awkward balls in the box, more substitutions, more little tweaks. And I think Monday Night Football, I caught the very end of Monday Night Football last night when I got in, and they were highlighting how Everton dominated as a 3 in certain areas. They were aggressive as a 3. Yeah. And if we can go into the season with a plan A, a plan B, a plan C for each game, we're in a much better position already than we were with just play football, boys.
Yeah. And it's all down to the manager, which is pretty scary.
So far, so good, my friends. So far, so good.
I just want to touch on one last thing before we go. Obviously, this podcast has been quite short today, guys. In terms of Everton going forward and Rafa Benitez, he played the 3 at the back of the team, and we had the 2 in midfield. Well, I've got to be honest, I questioned Luca Dean last night, and I don't mean to end on a negative, so I'm not gonna, but it wasn't his best game, and I must say, I've been slightly concerned by him this season. I know he loves Everton, he loves the fans, and he's got very different issues than Richarlison, but I could do with seeing him step up a little bit more, to be honest. To the left back, we know he can be. Do you agree?
He didn't have a good game. He didn't have a good game last night. He didn't. What I will say is, when we've played that formation in the past, and I'm talking last season, and maybe the tail end of the season prior, he had more of an athletic, left-sided defender behind him than Michael Keane. I don't understand why those 3 were set up the way they were set up, with Godfrey in the centre, with Yerry Mina right, and Michael Keane left. All that did for me is when we rolled the ball out, either way, the centre half it went to was on a weaker foot. And there was balls going out, and simple balls, really. And Michael Keane lost a couple of early duels, so his confidence went down straight away. So I think there's mitigating factors in the fact that Luca Dean had a bad game. What I will say is that says to me is, please do not play 3-4-3 again. It just doesn't suit us unless we can have a low block, a really low block, like we did at Anfield last season, like we did... I think we played Chelsea and Arsenal at home around Christmas time. We've done that low block, and it works in certain times, but please don't play it again. We're not suited to it. We are not a possession-based team. We are just not. And I'm an Evertonian who would love to turn up and watch a possession-based side like a Manchester City, where it takes 3 or 4 passes and you're in. We're not. What we are good at is 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. In your face with an Abdullah Doucoure winning the ball, driving forward, with a Demarai Gray playing on the shoulder, with a heaven forbid, please let him get back into it, with a James Rodriguez dancing around the pitch with players behind him who can win and fight. I think it might not be a bad thing in hindsight that 3-4-3 didn't work last night. I don't think we'll revisit it again, but I think that was a mitigating factor, Mike, for me, in why Luca Dean played so bad. The formation did not suit him. The personnel behind him did not suit him.
Well put together there. Well constructive argument there, Millsy, I must say.
I'm a podcaster. I do this for a living, my friend.
You know. I tell you what. I want some writing opportunities. I do. I decided I'm going to start writing on Everton as well. So if you know anyone who wants any writers, let me know. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Millsy, thanks ever so much for popping on because I know you've been poorly, bless you.
Yeah, no worries, man. You've referenced there that it's a short one. We usually go into the weeds and we dissect it, but hands in the air, it's my fault this week, guys. If you're expecting a 30-minute podcast for your run or whatever, I'm sorry. I'm isolating because I've tested negative for COVID, but I'm not too well, so I think it's not the worst idea to stay in and just get better. So I'm doing this remote right after I've just done the Across the Park podcast remote. So I've dug into this time, but hopefully next week we'll be back and give you a full 45-minute coverage of Aston Villa 0, Everton 3. How about that, Mike?
Yeah, I'll take that. I think it might be 3-1. We seem to like a 3-1, but I'll take it all day. Guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you ever so much for watching, and that's been the Mike and Millsy podcast. See you soon. Peace.